Welcome zombies. Today we're taking a look inside of the Tartarian mud-flooded skyscraper of the plains located in the small town of Ness City, Kansas. That's right, Kansas. Who knew Flatland, Kansas had a huge stone masonry, super heavy skyscraper poking up out of the dirt. And specifically, we're going to be looking at some secret vaults inside of this skyscraper of the plains. They say it was previously a bank. We'll analyze whether or not we think it is a bank or not. But before that, they also say it was a courthouse. They don't call it a courthouse, but it says they had county meetings in there and also a courtroom in there. So basically a courthouse. And we have seen that a lot in this old world stone masonry architecture all over the country. Post offices, courthouses, jails, insane asylums, right? Just repurpose old stone masonry architecture. In fact, ancient stone masonry architecture into different buildings. In this case, it's not really used for anything anymore. It's basically just 100% vacant. There's like a kind of like a ballroom, which we'll look at the top of the building, but mostly it's just vacant and you can take a tour of it if you're in the area, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Here's a look at the exterior of the skyscraper of the plains. In my last video, it's called I Found a Mud Flood Tartarian Skyscraper in Kansas, in Flatland, Kansas. That video is all about the exterior of this building and also a couple other buildings, old world stone masonry buildings in Ness City, Kansas. If you haven't watched that, definitely check it out. You can also navigate to my playlist, and I have my playlist organized by state. And so you can click into several different states and see the different cities I've been to, documenting different Tartarian old world architecture, mud flooded architecture all over the country. The weight of all of this stone right here is tremendous. It is way too much weight for horse and buggy, which is typically the story that we hear. But in this case, they do say there was a train running through Ness City, Kansas, and that's how they hauled in some supplies, which trains could very well haul this type of weight. So we'll give them that in this situation. But it is also very obvious right here that this structure is buried and there are levels descending much deeper into the ground. Even if you take the lowest level that we can see, it still descends quite a bit into the ground. And you know, just like how really just like hand shovels is how they excavated all the dirt. Like where I live right now, I've been watching a construction project right outside my window. It's just a one-story, pretty small restaurant that's being built, and they've brought in probably, and this is not an exaggeration, 30 to 50 different tractors, like just to excavate the dirt and break up the dirt and lay a foundation. And it's just and the type of stuff we build nowadays compared to this type of stonework, which we are not stonemasons nowadays. We don't ever touch and build with real stone. At most, we facade our buildings with a little bit of stone just to make it look like stone. But these types of structures are fully stone, where the walls are 4 to 6 to even like 10 or 12 feet thick at times in some of this old world Tartarian architecture all across the country. And our walls nowadays are like 4.5 to 6 inches thick, and they're basically hollow, like little sticks, maybe some steel beams, and then fluffy insulation. Like it's just completely huge difference between the weight and this style of architecture and what it takes to build this type of architecture versus what we're building nowadays. But they tell us that poor people built this when they didn't have power tools. They just had a lot of determination and some horses. In this case, they did have a train coming through the area. And then there's two more other things that are just completely ridiculous about the story behind this skyscraper of the plains. One is that it was built in 2 years. So not only is it super, super heavy, tremendous weight, literally like the weight of this building is not so different from the argument and the question about how they build the pyramids because of how heavy the stones are and how you transport the weight, how do you lift that weight. It's really the same what's going on here with this weight and this stone. Maybe you could say it's a little bit lighter than pyramid stones, but not really. Like this is some seriously heavy stone, and they said they did it in 2 years. Our stick frame homes that are very lightweight and we have tractors and electricity and paved roads and all of that don't even get built in 2 years. But this got built in 2 years. And then the second ridiculous thing that I said I was going to mention is that there were only 900 people in this town when this thing was built. We don't build stuff like this nowadays, and we have way more than 900 people in our towns. And we have all the electricity, the paved roads, the tractors, all that, right? But 900 people needed this as their bank. So here's a look inside of the skyscraper of the plains. This is the top level, the highest level that you can get to. And they say it's like, they kind of turned it into a ballroom. But then you can see right here, I zoomed in on the eagle right there. If you've watched my other videos, the eagle pops up over and over and over again. And I explain in other videos what that symbol actually is. But then if you look right here, you can see that there's this vault door, and there's another one. There were 2 or 3. I definitely got videos of 2 of the different vaults inside of this building, but are they really vaults? I'm not too sure. I kind of lean towards they just added these as vaults to say this was actually a bank, but these vault rooms could just be props or something like that. I'll explain a little bit more about that. But here's a close-up video of this vault door right here, and there's just a couple of really interesting things. I think, you got the name of the company that made these vaults, and then you just have this interesting symbolism, which we always find attached to this old world Tartarian architecture, is symbolism that makes no sense to us. It's very clearly like a different language of symbolism that none of us have any idea really what it means. Also, these ceilings right here, I've found in lots of buildings all over Kansas. If you watch my video, I stayed in a Tartarian city hall. That's another Kansas building. It's a Tartarian building turned into a city hall, and it then currently turned into Airbnbs, and so I stayed in there, and it also had the same ceiling on top. You can see just very, very large, spacious rooms in here, and just completely vacant. Like, there's really nothing going on in here. An event occasionally, and a tour if you want to take a tour. And then I'll show you out of this window right here, and it just gives you like a nice view of Kansas and some other of the stone architecture buildings that are sitting surrounding this skyscraper of the plains right here. So it's interesting to see this type of architecture in such a small, tiny town of Ness City, Kansas. All right, now we'll go down to the lower levels here, and I'll show you a little bit more on the bottom floors. So when you get to the bottom of the stairs, turn this left, and you can see they have a lot of information on the wall. There's an elevator. We'll read more about elevators in just a second, but this is, I guess, the middle floor, and I'll show you some of the stuff that's on the walls right here, because it gets really interesting. We've got this construction photo right here, right? And these construction photos are hilarious. There's 3 things they always do, almost always. Chop off the top of the building is a common one, which is what we're seeing right here. Throw up some scaffolding or some rinky woodwork type stuff, which is exactly what we're seeing right here. And then another thing they do is they like to show people standing on the top. Like, some of the craziest ones are like the New York buildings, where they show people just like hanging off the top. Or I like this one right here from Fresno, California, where they trying to show these guys like sitting on power lines, but if you zoom in like on this guy's arm right here and stuff, like, it's just completely photoshopped work. So chop off the top, throw up scaffolding, and tell some people to go stand in certain places, or just Photoshop them in later if you think that's more efficient. And one of these stones on this building, a few of them definitely would just completely crush a wood cart. Those carts couldn't handle the weight, especially on dirt roads with rocks in them that aren't perfectly leveled. And if you've got to haul in thousands of stones, like, the dirt's gonna get way too dug out. The wheels wouldn't survive. Like, quickly, like almost instantly, wood cart wheels wouldn't survive the type of weight of this stone that we're analyzing. All right, then we come to the other side of this wall, and we learn a little bit more about the skyscraper of the plains, which they call a unique building. And also, I think it's worth just noting, like, these are just pieces of paper stapled to the wall. That doesn't mean any of this stuff that's being written on these pieces of paper is true. It's just storytelling. But if we read the stories, local builder William Ruff was awarded a contract of $34,000 to build, but the actual cost was estimated at $75,000, and this is where it gets interesting. An elevator shaft was included in the original plans. However, no elevator has as yet been installed, which is strange because we just saw an elevator, so I'm not sure why they're saying that. But I also think they're being silly and deceptive when obviously this type of architecture and the skyscraper height, like tall stone buildings, absolutely had elevators inside of them. Stairs also, yep, but they also had elevators. And then it says that P.A. Neri hand carved the stone detailing found in the arches And to ensure a perfect match with the stones, crushed limestone was used as aggregate for the mortar. And interesting that they didn't even spell the word ensure right. It should be ENSURE. So how real, how legit are these papers that were stapled to the wall to tell us the story about where this building actually comes from? And then they give us this little section right here, the under construction, and it says it was constructed between December 88. Okay, I said 2 years, that's a year and a half. And then it's really funny, they say, a warning. The following notice appeared in an 1889 edition of Ness County News. We may be allowed to suggest that if some of our citizens do not wish to have their children killed or horribly mangled, they will do well to keep them from playing about the bank building now in the course of construction. Really? Or are these pieces of paper that are making up some silly stuff and telling us stories? Because I don't think this was built in 1889, and so then there wasn't a notice to say, hey kids, stay away from the building that's in construction, because it wasn't constructed in a year and a half in 1888. All right, now if I pan off of this wall, here is one of the vaults, and I'll show you inside of this vault. And then I'll show you a little, in just a second, some interesting things that some of the people here had to say about the inside of these vaults. But I'm also suspicious if these really even are real vaults, or like I said it earlier on in the video, are we just looking at some prop stuff? Because right here, like, look at the section that was cut out to put this vault door right here. That doesn't look like in 1889 or whatever, that's how it was constructed. This looks like a new hole's been punched out right here and a new door added. And then right here they have a paper stapled on the wall that tells us about this safe and lock company, saying it started in 1848 and then expanded to be a worldwide safe company. And then here's the third vault, I think. So there's one on each level, I think is how it is. And this one's in the basement level, so the lowest level vault right here. And you can see it has a lot of this just exposed brick. And then here's a look inside of the vault, and you can see that it's just been turned into a little bit of an office. And I'll play this again right here and just try and catch the little snippet of what this lady has to say about the inside of this vault.
When they're done, they shut the door. And so the humidity gets so bad in there, when nobody's here, I try.
So she said it's extremely humid inside of that vault. And so they always have to keep the door open so that there's a little bit of airflow. And you can see they have a fan installed on the wall right there. If it's extremely, extremely humid, and we now have like air conditioning and all that, and they didn't back then whatever they were storing in that vault, like, just wouldn't have survived very well, right? Ton of humidity, and especially trapped in an enclosed vault, that humidity is going to cause some huge problems. So I don't know, to me it looks like if this was really a bank and these were real vaults, not original to the building when it was first built. And these vaults are really like the main part of the tour. It's like what this thing's known for. They don't even talk much about like the construction or the tremendous architecture that the building is. It's just really all about, hey, come look at these special vaults inside of here. And lastly, to finish off this video, there's also this sign in there that has the Wonders of Kansas 2008 architecture. And besides this Cooper barn right here, everything else is extremely heavy, old world Tartarian stone architecture. I guess this barn right here, but also, I don't know, maybe these are stone under the siding. I would not doubt that at all. I've seen that happen in a lot of places, but like this mansion right here, and then you've got the skyscraper of the plains, the dead center of this. You've got the Chase County Courthouse over here, which I did a video on a little bit ago. It's in my Kansas playlist if you want to check that out. You've got this Holy Cross Church right here, and you've got the LeBold Mansion, and then the Kansas State Capitol. I also did a video on the Kansas State Capitol in Topeka, Kansas. Really cool video. Definitely check it out. Skyscraper of the Plains with secret vaults inside. But are the vaults real? Were they truly used previously? Is this a prop setup? What do you guys think about the Skyscraper of the Plains? Let me know in the comments.
And it's a heavy, I don't even know what it's made of. And this guy commissioned 40 of them and had to sell for $17.50, and there's 10 of them left, and the 10 are in there. we're okay, but apparently the guy is close to dying, and we're assuming that when he dies,